This is our sample app for our adapter class. And what we're trying to do in this application is take a customer data transfer object that we might have gotten from a web service and convert it over to a customer business object that the application likes to use. And we're going to use the adapter pattern to do that conversion. So we have our customer DTO, and it has properties, address, city, and it separates first name and last name, unlike our customer business object. It also has a property for postal code rather than zip code. Our customer business object has similar but different properties, and a different number of them. So our name actually implies that it has the first and last name combined, and we have a zip code as opposed to a postal code. A little bit of sloppiness there. We have an interface called iCustomerList, and that interface has two methods. One is add customer, and that will take a customer DTO as a parameter, and the intention is that it will convert that customer DTO into a business customer object and add it to a list. Then we have a getCustomers method, and it will return the list of business object customers. Then we have our concrete implementation of that interface, and of course it has the two methods and an internal field for the list of customers. So very simply, here's our customer DTO object, and all it is a storage class. In a practical real world, it still would probably be a fairly simple class. That's the idea of DTOs, but it might come from another outside source. And our customer business object, again, a storage class. Nothing special here. And we see our interface for iCustomerList, and it was exactly as described in the class diagram. A method for getCustomers and a method for addACustomer. Finally, we get to our actual adapter implementation, and this is where the meat is. Our customer adapter implements iCustomerList. We have an internal member called customers, which is a list of business object customers. Now we need to implement the two methods on the interface. So we have getCustomers, and again, it returns a list of business object customers. So all it does is returns our internal member. addCustomer isn't really all that hard either, but it comes to the whole root of what an adapter does. addCustomer, we're getting a customer DTO object, and we need to effectively adapt it into a business object customer. So we take our customer DTO and we create a new customer object out of it. And we simply new up a customer and then set the appropriate properties, including that name property that combines first name and last name. So there's nothing particularly tricky in this code. It's just the pattern that you follow. You may also see it implemented actually right in the customer object itself, where the customer object has a constructor that would take a customer DTO. That's a fairly tight coupling, and that might not be what you want to do, and it might put a little bit of weight on the customer object that is unnecessary. So to test this out, we've got our form, and we have a button for adding a customer, and then a button for getting customers, and a list to present them. And this form will show us how we use the adapter. So when we create the form, we have a private member called customer list, and it's of type iCustomerList. So again, it's looking at the interface type rather than the actual adapter type. Now we instantiate it as a customer adapter, but we're still, with the rest of the application, only looking at iCustomerList. I also just started a dummy integer counter for customer ID. So every time we click Add Customer, we're going to create a customer DTO. And we'll new that up with that dummy customer ID that I've created, give it a first name, and the last name, cleverly, will be the customer ID. And we'll just leave the address, city, and postal code blank for the example. It doesn't really matter. Of course, in a real-world example, this DTO data is going to come from a real data source, and your customers will probably have real names. Hopefully, anyway. Once we create the customer DTO, we call our customer list interface and call the add customer method on that interface and pass in our DTO. So we're just building up a list of customer objects in that customer list every time we click add, and we increment our customer ID. So if we click the button 10 times, we'll end up with 10 new customers in this list. When we click Get Customers, we're going to first clear our list, so it will be empty, and we'll reload all of the customers. Your mileage may vary in a real implementation on this, but that's not the point of the adapter pattern. Then we get a list of business customer objects, by calling our customer list and the getCustomers method on that. So now you can see the adapter at work. This is the output of the adapter. I'm getting the customers, which are business object customer types. The addCustomer method on that adapter worked the other end and took an input of customer DTO types. So we're adapting that customer DTO to a business object customer. Once we have our list, we just loop through it and add each one of those customers to our display list. So let's just make sure we got that right. I'm going to add 5 customers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'll get them, and there they are. Of course, you'll have to trust me that all the types came out right, but if they didn't, we would have had compiler errors and all sorts of problems. So that's what the adapter pattern is for, to convert one type to another type.